Hey there, I wanted to do a video on a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is video games, or specifically Vampire Survivors, a game I've recently gotten into. Now, a lot of times when people are talking about video games, it's pretty common for people to sort of neglect the narrative or the story to the game. And I think this is an injustice. People will often talk about how, oh, this game is woke, and so it's shitty, and look how ugly the characters are, but they're missing the most important thing, in my opinion. And hey, maybe a very biased opinion because I am a writer, but I think the writing is the most important thing that is done wrong when the left is making a game. And I've often made lots of arguments about this, about how the narratives in games affect you, the narratives that you surround yourself affect you. So you shouldn't watch shows by people that hate you, you shouldn't watch movies by people that hate you, and you shouldn't play games by people that hate you if you can avoid it. And this is the first mod of this kind that sort of fixes a game's narratives. You could have mods that change the ugly, dykey women into attractive women, and you can have mods that edit out like the different particularly egregious bits of dialogue. But what I think people don't really notice is that background narrative that you sort of absorb like osmosis through your skin. Just by sitting in it, you start to assume that certain things are true or more accurate or whatever. And there's two perfect examples of this that come to mind, and that's peasants being dumb and ugly and dressing poorly and everything being gray in the Dark Ages, and it being this horrible time after the Roman Empire fell. And you can watch historical videos on why that's bullshit, but the purpose behind the narrative, why it's taught to you, is not because they're depicting facts to you, because it's not true, right? But why do they lie? They lie because it's more useful to try and separate people from their roots. Or specifically to separate white people from their roots, to try to make Europeans feel like they come from nothing important. Same reason that they would lie about people beating their wives in the 50s or whatever. And you have a similar thing with like people pretending that ancient Greeks were gay and stuff. But regardless, these are all sort of background elements that show up in media, and it has a degrading effect on you and your morale. There's people who pretend to be immune to it, and they're wrong, right? You can have a certain amount of resistance to it, but you're always sort of soaking in your environment. And I've discovered a mod that tries to remedy this for Vampire Survivors, and it's very interesting to me because it's the first mod of this kind that really dives into the narratives you're sort of passively absorbing in a game that doesn't really have a main story. It doesn't have characters talking to you and stuff. It's all depicted through, just the ambient narrative of items and things like that. Now, this guy's coming at it from a Christian angle. He's calling his mod Spiritual Warfare, and his main goal is to bolster the Christian themes. Now, I'm not a Christian myself, raised Catholic, obviously, but I have no faith. Now, this guy who does gives a good example. The King Bible upgrades into the Unholy Vespers, right? King Bible referencing the King James Bible, I assume, and becoming Unholy Vespers. Vesper is like a type of prayer, obviously unholy being unholy, and he has changed this to midnight prayers, right? Now, I want to critique this guy's mod as well as applaud it. I'm sort of critiquing this on two levels, one being whether this would be objectively good for everyone, and then whether it would be objectively good for him, for what he's trying to do. I think this is an imperfect upgrade, right? If you changed unholy, just unholy, to midnight and said midnight vespers, you keep that sort of eloquence of this uncommonly used word, and you get to kick out the satanic themes to it, right? I think you shouldn't be robbing people of vespers as a term that they're encountering regularly when they play this game in order to sort of remove the satanic element. It's not necessary. I think it's a good thing that people run into bigger vocabulary words. A lot of my vocabulary when I was younger came from playing Guild Wars 1 and all the spells and their crazy names with these complicated themes, enervation and immolation and things like that. It's good and fulfilling for people to encounter more complicated, more obscure, more beautiful words than they commonly use in conversation. It kind of broadens people's horizons. Now he goes on, Vampire Survivors is very close to something a Christian can relax into playing and just have fun sending demons to hell where they belong. And then he goes into the whole Bible thing that we just talked about. And he goes on and he has this list of things that he has changed, right? He has simplified Magic Wand to Missile because it's firing magic missiles, right? And then he has changed Holy Wand into Mo Missile. Now, his explanation of this is Mo missiles, Mo problems, right? So he's gone away from referencing Satanism into referencing some rap song about cheating on your spouse and having lots of bitches, right? It comes from Mo bitches, Mo problem, whatever fucking rap song that comes from. That's trash, right? He shouldn't be doing that. There's no need to change this. It's fine how it is. So that's my first problem with this mod, is the reduction of vocabulary, as you see with Mo Missile and changing Vesper into prayers. But there's also a bit of pearl clutching, right, where he changes spell into cheat code. Honestly, if you're Christian and you're concerned about magic spells, you kind of just got to get over it. I just don't think it's. I just don't think it's something that's ever worth worrying about. Rune Tracer into Pinball, I don't really see the point, right? He goes on with, like, Pinball is more descriptive of the weapon's behavior, in my opinion, with a stronger semantic resemblance to Castlevania's Ricochet Rock, which was originally called Diamond in that series, and is the inspiration of for this weapon. But why reduce Rune Tracer, which sounds cool, it's interesting, into Pinball? It's just... You should embrace these higher themes, right? It shouldn't... Just because a weapon is acting like Pinball when it's bouncing around the stage, it doesn't mean that you don't benefit from kind of imagining this higher thing, this Rune Tracer, this Ricochet Rock. Like, in embracing these higher themes of, like, heroism and things like that, there is a benefit to people. Yeah, and there's a bunch of these where I just disagree. I guess I'll go down the list and kind of give my critique. Turning luck into favor, that's something it doesn't really... I don't really care about. He wants to relate it more to divine providence and, like, Christian stuff. Sure. Whatever floats your boat. That's more like a personal taste thing. I don't think it's, like, objectively right or wrong. Changing greed into fortune, he doesn't write anything about this, but I think this is the most interesting change he made, right? You shouldn't look at your pursuit of gaining money with no downsides, by the way. In the game, it's just more money. There's no negative effect of getting more money in the game. It's just good, right? If you are going out there into the real world and you're thinking, I need to make money, and you've just absorbed through your skin this idea that is greed, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You earn money to spend it on wholesome things, let's say. To spend it on your wife or your kids or your loved ones, or to spend it on exercise equipment to make yourself into better shape. There's all sorts of uses for money that are great. To think about the pursuit of money as greed, I think you're kneecapping yourself to some small degree. Now, is this going to ruin your life? No. But if you're thinking about ways you can just upgrade the motivations in your life, you can just sort of upgrade your brain, this is a great change. And this is something that I feel like if you're making a game, this is a very interesting point to take. It's very much a negative connotation to go for greed, right? And if you're going for a darker game, like this is kind of, right? You're fighting vampires. Greed sort of fits better thematically, right? But whether it fits thematically or not, you're going to spend a couple hours staring at this thing, sort of soaking in the vibe of it. It is healthier for you to think of the pursuit of money as fortune than it is for you to think about it as greed, whether it fits the narrative or not. And that's something to keep in mind when you're making decisions to fit the theme versus what is just mentally healthy for people to think of. Now, again, he changed spell into cheat code. Kind of a pearl clutcher move, to be honest. Talked about Mo Missile. Changing Death Spiral into Scythe. Don't really see the point. Saying death is that bad. Death Spiral sounds cool. Whatever. Another change I wouldn't have made. Santa Water into Holy Water. He's like, I'm considering renaming this as Saint's Water to be closer to the original name, or not renaming at all. I mean, that it just does mean Saint Water in Italian, so it's like, honestly, he could have gone for Holy Water as the first version, and then the upgraded version being Saints Water or something, if you really can't stand Italian that much. This is really getting into the weeds, but I don't like the upgrade for the Santa Water, so maybe I'm not the person to even ask about this. Talked about the pinball thing. Fire Wand into Fireball. That just, again, seems like a we can't have magic because Christianity, which is... I don't know where that comes from. That feels very Satanic Panic, like stupid Christian, however you term that. Not a theologian, so I can't tell you like where in Christianity we get can't have magic, but whatever. Hellfire into Brimstone. Not using hell gives it more uniqueness when... Yeah, I don't... Whatever. Brimstone sounds cooler, I guess. I mean, this seems like a complete nothing change. I can't even, like... Hellfire is a cool thing to say. Brimstone is a cool thing to say. Like, whatever. Changing a pentagram into Star of David seems a little, like, anti-Semitic, but whatever. Yeah, and I mean, me personally, I'm big into heavy metal. I don't actually really have a problem with satanic stuff. Like, thematically, like, how it looks and stuff. It seems very cool to me, right? Obviously, I'm into the heavy metal aesthetic. So... I'm a bad judge of whether this is a good change or not. Hollow Heart into Open Heart, in principle, I like it, right? Because you're kind of looking at things with a more optimistic view. However, Hollow Heart sounds cooler. So... yeah, equally descriptive, but with a positive connotation. Me, personally, I think Hollow sounds kind of cool. So I just wouldn't change it for that. But, I mean, on an ideological level, I have no argument, right? So I guess good change. Pumarola into Salvation. What the fuck even does Pumarola mean? Okay, so I looked it up. Pumarola means tomato. To someone who can't speak Italian, like the terrible son of my ancestors that I am, it seems kind of cool to me. But I guess Salvation makes more sense, thematically superior, so go for it. Now, Soul Eater into Onions is retarded, and there's really no way around it. A stronger reference to garlic? It is not a stronger reference to garlic. It is not garlic. It is an onion. Onions are not garlic. Eating souls doesn't strike me as a good thing to do. Fair enough, however, it does absorb health, so it's kind of what you're doing. I mean, I guess you could have changed it to, like, Siphon or something like that. Well, whatever. Graven Mark, good improvement. Skullomaniac was a very goofy and retarded kind of name. Song of Mana into Song of Worship. Part of removing witchcraft from PC actions. Mana is a Indian thing. It shows up in, like, Japanese stuff all the time, but, yeah, that's like an Indian concept. Based? Yeah, based and cry about it, Vivek pilled. Manajad, I don't know what the fuck that means, but I'll take a hallelujah over that. Changing Fiera de Truffello into Guns A-Blazing is super gay. This is a much cooler name, and I don't know what the fuck it means. I don't even have to look it up. Guns A-Blazing is just some, like, Zoomer trash. Changing 8 the Sparrow into Guns A-Freezing, also stupid. What is this? Because it's, like, shooting blue bullets, they're freezing bullets all of a sudden. This into Laser Sweep. It's dumb. No Future into Tilt. What is No Future? No Future resembles the genocidal / heretical heart, the final boss of T260G's story in the PSX game Saga Frontier. The boss has a phase change attack called Carnage, in which the text No Future is displayed. This may be the source of the weapon's name. Okay, well, I mean, sure, I guess. Although No Future is kind of a cool thing to declare to your enemies, so I'll not the best change. I think a lot of these changes I don't really agree with. I think you're probably getting a little bit bored seeing me go through each individual change. I'll just, like, skim through these. Gata Amari is just Italian for lots of cats, and he just made it English because he's a loser. Valkyrie Turner into Angel's Torch. Sure, you want to get rid of stuff that doesn't belong to your religion, like a Valkyrie, and change it into an angel because it's like a similar concept. fine. I think that whole aspect of Christianity, not like amazing. But I mean, it's his prerogative. He's trying to do spiritual warfare. So, fine. I do think that concepts like Valkyries and like anything from mythology of different European countries has a cultural relevance even to those who don't have faith. Like, it is a thing that connects me with other people who are European, is that we have our shared mythologies, even if we don't share a religion. So it's just another layer that provides these roots that connect people. By uprooting them in favor of Christianity, you kind of put all your eggs in the Christianity basket for me to feel some level of empathy for other Europeans. And that's without even considering the other Europeans, which would be fighting the same fight alongside you in many instances, but feel alienated because you're demonizing their religion. But whatever. I think there's much more important things to be worrying about than this whole, like, should you be Christian or pagan or whatever argument. But again, I'm an atheist, so maybe I just don't get the emotion behind it and whatever. But I do see it as a gigantic distraction, and there's way more important things to be worrying about in the world. You guys should be united against other forces than each other. You can very easily get along and worship your own gods or whatever. And then Flames of Moonspell into Purify? Come on. Flames of Moonspell is so fucking cool. How can you get rid of that? I don't care if that's like Satan's MySpace account. That's super cool. There's also a good band called Moonspell. In any case, the mod is called Spiritual Warfare. He has pictures explaining how you would install it. Very useful. Very cool. If you're Christian looking to Christ Max in your Vampire Survivors experience, go for it. I do think he could have done a better job with some of these concepts, but as a whole, I really respect this guy doing this, and I think it's really, really cool that this guy is going into the themes of the game that he's playing and changing them to what fortifies him and makes him better in life. It's an incredibly empowering thing that I think he's doing for himself. Now, robbing himself of a bigger vocabulary and referencing like rap, not amazing. And me personally, I don't have any problem with like magic or witchcraft or whatever kind of shit. But if he does and he wants that out of his game, he doesn't want to be making the decision to use witchcraft, good for that guy, right? Also, I am just noticing now, this guy has said Christphobic microaggression. Whoa. So, anyone who says microaggression, I seriously question their sexuality, intelligence, everything. However, that's probably ironic. You don't really run into a lot of, like, super lefty Christians. So, at least none that care about, like, Christianity and stuff. And again, I don't mean to, like, roast this guy so much on the content of his mod. I genuinely really respect this guy for what he's doing here, and I think more people should pay this kind of attention to the themes that they're taking in. I think there are some objectively good changes that he is making, like Greed into Fortune, for example, is a very easy one to go for. And there's several others, too, that I think are just objective improvements. And you watching this video, I want you to keep this in mind and sort of think about this when you're playing games for hours and hours. Consider what effect absorbing all these themes from the games you're playing have on you over the many, many hours that you're playing these games. Are you absorbing positive themes? Are you absorbing negative themes? Is there some way that you could improve this by, doing what this guy did and go into the files and change the names for stuff into stuff that doesn't sort of subtly degrade you, right? And there are games made by whole teams of people that are great games gameplay-wise, and then the writing staff are all cucks. And maybe you bought the game a long time ago and you play it a lot and it's just slowly grating on you that these things are a problem in the game. Maybe it's time that you spent like $50 and commissioned a mod on Fiverr to go change the names of a bunch of stuff. Commission a mod to change the skins of a bunch of people to swap them out for different skins. You can do this in the world. You can pay for mods to be made for you, to fortify you, to inspire you. If you're slowly being ground down ever so slightly, just a very, very tiny bit, just think about how you could be flipping that to fortifying you ever so slightly, giving some money to a modder, and, improving the game for yourself, improving your life, because the themes that you take in and day out do have some effect on you. And even if you're very resistant to negative themes, as some people claim to be, you could still, instead of having to use your resistance, flip that and benefit yourself and just soak in something inspiring. Anyway, I just wanted to cover this mod because so few people even think about this, and I'm really happy that this guy is thinking about this, so I have an excuse to kind of talk about this topic. So I hope you enjoyed, or at least found it kind of interesting. And if there are changes that you disagree with in this mod, I'd love to hear about them in the comments, and especially if there are themes and terminologies in games that you play that you think a quick swap would improve, I'd love to hear about those too. Because this is a topic that really interests me, and when I'm writing my books, I do keep in mind my word choices and how they will affect people, and the themes in my stories. I try to keep them overall optimistic, and when I'm ending a book, I try really hard to make sure that people are leaving my stories optimistic. As dark as they may be, I try to end them on a positive note to benefit people when they read my stories. And if you'd like to check out any of my stories, you can find them at adammeisner.com, link in the description. I personally recommend Slayer in the Wide Valley if you like fantasy. It's a great story about genociding orcs, and it's very human positive, and you as a human should feel very good about yourself reading the book. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Take care. Is it a good book, Kirky? Yeah, you like that book? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Oh,